Good morning, everybody. I'm Juliet. I'm in Vancouver, and finally, it feels like fall. I think that couple of days it's been raining. I've been having to use my winter jacket. I know it's fall, but I already used my winter jacket. Anyway, I'm so excited to have you all here. As you know, UX and Tame is always finding people, professionals, designers, engineers, a little bit of everything to bring in to share about their experience because what we want is for you to feel more confident and excited about this change in a career, or if you're looking into moving to UX or product design, you know what is this about. So let's bring our guest in, and then she can tell us a little bit about who she is. Hey, how are you?
Hello, good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Good. How is the weather where you are?
So I'm in Texas right now,
Yes.
and we are finally hitting weather that is 60, 70 degrees,
Yes.
which is perfect. I love it. I'm from Minnesota, so this is
Okay.
great.
Nice. Okay. Yes. I don't know what happened. I mean, it's fall here, but I love summer. So every time that the temperature goes down and I have to start wearing my winter jacket, I don't like it. That. What do you do?
Yeah.
Anyway, why don't we start telling people who you are? Mhm.
Sure. Yeah. Well, my name is Melysia, and I am a UX designer with a construction tech startup here in Austin, Texas called Buildforce. And yeah, my background is in construction project management. Um, what else? First generation Hmong American. And yeah, I like coffee.
That's a good one. I haven't had a coffee today, and
Ah.
maybe I will be a little bit kind of, I don't know what I'm saying, but I could tell because, yes, I haven't had coffee. I'm Colombian, so for me, it's like a must have. What do we tell people? I mean, I was looking at your background. It's like, oh, I don't know if that should be asking you about that question. Is that something unique about you? Uh, is that like a little drum that it doesn't sound? I don't know how you call those.
Oh, yeah. I am learning how to play the drums. I've been taking lessons for the past 2 to 3 months now.
Wow.
Not an expert, haven't learned how to play any songs yet. I'm still learning like the foundations and the basic beats. But yeah, it's my little side hobby that I do.
That's pretty cool. When I was younger, like really young, at church, they used to have like free classes, like musical instruments, and I got the chance to play a little bit of drums, and I love it because for me, I have never been really into instruments, like I don't know, like the guitar or the piano, but I felt like the drum was a little more natural for me at least. So yeah, cool. Well, I will ask you then maybe more questions outside of UX and TAM about that because I'm really interested.
Yeah.
Yes, but why don't we start telling people why did you go into construction, like engineer, construction project management? Like
Mhm.
I feel like you being a UX designer, like where were your young mind at that point when you chose that career?
Yeah. Oh gosh. So I have been a part of the construction industry, I think when I was like a junior in high school. I was a part of this program in school that allowed me to leave half of the day to go and work. It was kind of like a work study program. And one of the jobs that I had was doing front desk work for a small general contractor in Minnesota. And after graduating high school, I jumped on board full time with that company and started doing like accounting, accounts payable, invoicing, and also looking at insurance. And then I was able to like get an idea of what the project managers at that company what they were doing, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So from there I moved over to a it's like a flooring company. They do terrazzo tile and resin and all that. And I met some people, some of my colleagues. They had studied project management at this college called Dunwoody College of Technology. And I was like, whoa, like I can go to school for this? Like, this is really cool. So when I was at the second company, I decided to go back to school and pursue my undergrad in construction project management. I was a part of this program when I was there, and this program allowed us to connect with mentors. It was primarily for people of color and women in tech. And I met this individual named Karen who worked for kind of like a mid-sized general contractor in Minnesota. And she's like, yeah, like, you want to come intern with us? Like, let's give this a try, see how it goes. And so midway through my schooling, I went for the intern program and was there for an intern for like a year or so, and then got hired on full time as their project engineer. And was there at that company for a handful of years, was on track to be working towards like a project manager position with the company. And then of course, like, the pandemic happened and whatnot, and had to make some pivots and while that was occurring around the world. So that is my background.
Well, I found it really interesting that schools have that opportunity
Mhm.
to know what you want to do, because I feel like finishing high school is always so hard to decide where you want it to go, because you haven't had the exposure to the workspace to decide, what do I like this. So I
Mhm.
feel like the curriculums always looks like so interesting, or the title of the career always looks so interesting, and then you start going to school and it's like, oh, maybe this is not about, okay, I'm in school already, and then you go to work and it's like, definitely not what I wanted. So I think to be in that space, and for you to realize, oh, I can go to school for this, and I'm already liking it. Yes.
Yeah.
But then you mentioned that, yeah, COVID came in, and I think everybody's priorities start changing, and then we start realizing that we want something else. Yeah, that they have been something else inside of us that we wanted. So, what were the downsides of this career, and what kind of brought you up into switching?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. So I know like, after I graduated from school and immersed in my role full time, I had this, a feeling in the back of my head that, like, I don't know if this might be, like, I don't know if this is it. Um, and I think some of the things that alluded to that it was just like the environment of working on a construction job site. And I won't go into like too many details about it, but being an Asian female on a construction job site comes with its own interesting experiences and extra things that you might have to do to, like, prove your value and your worth. And I also felt that in my role, I didn't have the field experience. And what I mean by that is I never had to lace up my boots and get out there and do the hard work. And while you certainly can make a career in this role without field experience, I felt yeah, that pressure, like, I felt it a lot more, because it's one thing to look at drawings and blueprints of a building and understand how that comes to life, but then, like, it's another to be able to, like, visualize how all these pieces come together. And yeah, it was just personality clashes, political environment, this feeling that I don't belong here, So yeah, I think, I mean, the programs that are a part that happen around the industry, supporting people of color and getting women into the construction industry. I think that already alludes to some of the, I guess, struggles folks might encounter in this industry. So yeah, just stuff like that.
Well, and I feel like it's hard. It's hard because I feel like, yeah, schools and organizations try to open up spaces, but I feel like there is something else to do in the other side. Yes, there is
Right.
not just about giving you the space again for you as women to realize, okay, yeah, I can be in that space, but the spaces needs to upgrade this and change their mind about how they see things.
Mhm.
But I feel like what I like the best is you taking ownership of your feelings
Mhm.
and saying, hey, you know, like I have the knowledge. I know that I could do this, but maybe this is not what I want. I feel like believing in the God inside of you and said, okay, maybe there is something else. Because that's hard. That is not easy. As like, I mean, we all have the pressure. Like we went to school, we already spent the time here, we have the experience. Now what? Yes, I feel like
Mhm.
that now what is hard to sit down and say, do I take ownership of this and take this step? So when do you say, okay, that's it, I need to do something else, and how
Yeah.
do you find that something else?
Yeah. So in the past, or in the previous question, I had made mention about like having to find some way to like prove myself, and that one of the things that I happened to be really good at was the technology and learning the technology that was used on site, and then also taking that and teaching it and showing the field team like, hey, here's the iPad, here's the software, this is what you can do to make it work for you. So I knew that I was really good at it. I really enjoyed it. And I also had this affinity for my field team. Like I just loved the people that I worked with, and I really wanted to just make their job easier. Like I went in like, this is my job to make your job easier. So let's figure it out. And with those two themes, technology and servicing the field team, I was like, there's got to be some way for me to do something with these feelings, right? And to be honest, I think I didn't know that companies that build products and technology existed. And which is like a silly thought because you're using a product and obviously there's people behind that product, right? But to me, it just didn't connect. And I was just like, oh, it's just this thing it just happens to be there and it happens to work for me. I didn't realize that there were devs behind it, product managers, salespeople and whatnot. So I was doing some exploring. I was like, okay, I think maybe I could get into like help desk and do like IT stuff. And I looked into it, studied a little bit, read some books, and realized that I was like, oh, this isn't it. This I thought it was, but it's probably not what I'm looking for. And I had talked to a career coach because I needed some guidance, and she was like, yeah, what about UX design? And I was like, oh, what's that? And did some research, and I realized that this field, this position, role, and industry could be a way for me to connect field teams, field individuals with technology and products, and like help them use technology on site, and then also be a part of like the whole designing process, right? And like understanding like, how do you use this, what are the constraints that you deal with, and like how can we make this product better for you? So yeah, to answer your question, I got into UX because of these two things that I really wanted to work on within an industry that I am very passionate about, and UX was like the happy medium for me. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and again, I think that ability to be curious, because like you were saying, oh, like I explained like how to use technology to people, and it's so normal for you, yes, because you've been doing it, and and finding that love and being good for something and related it with a career is not easy. Yeah, because you never, like you said, oh, I didn't know that could be a career.
Right.
So I think that having people that kind of understand all those connections and say, hey, do you think that you would like this, is really important to have at one point in your career or in your professional development. So I think that's a good one, just finding people that you can express yourself and start throwing different ideas, and for them to understand is really powerful when switching.
Mhm.
So okay, so what did you do? Did you go to school? Did you study by yourself? What did you do?
Yeah. So after I made the decision that I wanted to give this new profound job industry a try, I did some research and realized that I could either self teach myself, I could go back for my master's, or I could enroll in a boot camp. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know if I want to go back to school yet formally. And I definitely will need some sort of guidance. And I found that a boot camp was the best option for what I needed at the time. And I did my research, compared a handful of boot camps, and talked to people, and uh, met with previous bootcamp students and talked about their experience, and eventually landed on Designlab, um, and enrolled in their UX foundation and the academy program. And that took about 6 or so months. So yeah.
Yeah, nice. And I think that's when you were saying, oh, for me, I knew that I wanted to go to boot camp instead of a master's or like, I don't know, whatever other options. I feel like usually that's a hard one to figure out too. Yes. And mostly because a lot of people go to boot camps and it's like, okay, so maybe that's what I should do. But I think having the time to sit down and compare and everything
Mhm.
makes a lot of difference. For me, it was the same. It's like, I don't want to go to school for 4 years, 2 years, a year. I didn't have the money
Mhm.
to support myself for all of that. And I went to school for two different careers. And I was
Uh,
like, oh, I don't want to do the same. Yes, I don't want to be in another school for years and finishing and going to the industry and realizing, no, I don't like this.
mhm.
So a boot camp for me was 3 months and realizing, okay, in 3 months, let's see how it feels. Let's see what is happening in the real world with UX and see if I like it. So again, for people to take the time to research and talk to people in the different spaces is really, really powerful to see where you want it to go.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so then what happens? So you go to school, then you know that you need to find a job. So how was this transition between studying and going into the workplace?
Yeah. So I think before discussing how the job search process went, I do want to make a note that when I enrolled in Designlab, I felt like there were two different things that I had to keep in mind. How like I was going to curate my case studies and my projects, and how that all that all those projects were going to translate at the end of my time with Designlab. And it was either go super very like focused on a specific industry, or just be super general with what you're doing so that you have some sort of flex when you're searching for jobs. And I went back and I was like, you know what? I got into this because I wanted to um, work for field folks and get into construction tech. So I made sure to curate some of my projects to construction related items. And I used that, going through a Designlab. And then eventually, when it was time to get my portfolio ready and gear up for like the job search process, I stuck with that same mentality. Like, I'm not going to apply to any role or any industry and company out there. Like I'm going super like narrow tunnel vision, focusing on construction technology only. And I felt like that it really helped me. I know some folks have different methods when they do this, and but for me, what helped was just pulling from my previous experience, my intention, and what my goal was originally, and making sure that like when it was time to job search, I was like, this is what I want, this is what I'm gonna do, and I'm not going to pivot unless I need to. So
Question: how do
yeah.
you realize that intention? Yes, because I feel like that's such a hard one when you're starting a boot camp or when you're starting a new career, and knowing that that's your final goal. Yes, I feel like I know we, as a lot of the people who's transitioning, are coming from a different industry, and a lot of people have that struggle. Is like, what do I do with this? Like, I have so much experience in here. Where do I put it? Yes. So how was that realization of like, okay, I think I can use this towards my future. That is still what I know. Yes. How did you realize that?
How did I realize that? I mean, I think it all went back to me asking myself, like, why am I doing this? Why did I leave my graduate degree behind and my experience in project management? Like, what is really driving me? And I felt like that really benefited and helped me when I was going through the boot camp, and I had moments where I was like, this isn't for me, this is too much, this is hard, I cannot do it. Being able to ground myself in purpose and the reason that I had when I first started really helped me. And yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's
Okay.
wonderful. I feel like, again, we all leave careers behind or switch because of some reasons, yes. And I think during those times when you are in a school and it's like everything is new and boot camps are intense, yes, because it's such a short time for you to learn so much that you don't get a chance to really really understand what is happening, because today is something new. So if something you learned yesterday is like too late, today is something else. So I think going back to the ground of like, what I'm doing this, how can I utilize what I had from the past, and what is my goal at the end, I think it helps a lot to know where you are right now. I think that's just coming back where you are today, and at the beginning of the boot camp, and like, okay, it was worth it. Yes, because of those thoughts and the intentions that you have behind. Okay, but yeah, let's go back to, so you, during your boot camp, was thinking, okay, what do I do with this, bringing my experience and finding that first job. Do you think that those the skills that you brought from the past were really useful when studying and when finding that job?
Yeah, I think they were super super useful, and I think there are a couple of reasons to that too. If we're talking about like skills such as learning how to work across different teams, stakeholder management, collaboration, scope management, and all of that, like there were skills like that translated over. But then I also had like some sort of the industry experience and like understanding how construction works to some degree benefited me because I understood the problem that my company was trying to solve. And so I felt like being able to have that storytelling aspect of, this is why I can be passionate about this problem, and it's like I can relate to it as well, really helped me in regard to my job search. And yeah, I don't know, it's like, I think, I guess as an example, like if I was going to get into like healthcare, I honestly wouldn't know where to start because I feel like I wouldn't know like the ins and outs of healthcare. But construction, there is terminology that I'm aware of. I understand where different companies have like different roles in different places, and the titles and positions and responsibilities, and how everybody all works together cohesively to get a building on the floor. Um, yeah, yep.
Well, and again, I think something that you mentioned from before is like, oh, I didn't have that field experience. Yeah, like I never
Uh-huh.
put the boots on, and I didn't know how it is to work, and that was like something that you knew that you were missing, but now it's the opposite. Yes, now it's like I know the ins and out of the sector.
Mhm.
So even though that now I'm in a new career, I really know what it is to be in this. So I feel like it's so interesting how it changed. Yes, for you to
Mhm.
really take or empower what you knew and bringing it in. I really like that. I think for everybody that is changing careers, to really sit down with what I knew, what I know what to do,
Mhm.
and bring it in is so powerful. Um, so when you started out, so tell us, how did you find your first job? Like, how did you ended up landing it?
Yeah. How did I end up landing my job? Okay, so I was getting ready to submit my portfolio to be reviewed, and if it got accepted from Designlab, then that meant I officially graduated from the program. So I worked on my portfolio, spent a lot of time in that area, trying to make it look great and whatnot. And then after I submitted my portfolio, I realized that I had some time on my hands, so I filled that time in with some volunteer opportunities, which was super fun. Got to work with other designers with Tech Fleet. And I also started scoping out some companies on LinkedIn, trying to like gauge what was out there, and what are the opportunities that were out there. And I was like, okay, this isn't going to be a numbers game, no pressure. You're fine. You don't need to start whipping your resume out to everyone. Like, it's fine. Like, let's just pace yourself and enjoy the ride while you're on it. So I was on LinkedIn and typed in construction technology and just started following some companies that had missions and goals that I aligned with and was really interested in. And there was a couple of companies that I was like, oh, like this is cool, and they happened to have some positions open that I was like, that looks really cool. I think I can do that. And I sent out, I think when my portfolio was under review, I had sent out probably 3 or 4 applications while I was waiting. In that waiting period. And let's see. So one company had ghosted me, and then the other company reached out to me but wanted me to interview for another position. And then Buildforce, they reached out and they're like, hey, like, let's schedule a one-on-one. And um, from that initial one-on-one with the head of product to actually getting the offer, I think the time between interviews took about like 2 weeks. And I got my offer letter. And then a couple of days after that, my portfolio was approved. So I had officially graduated from Designlab. So there was a lot of things happening all at once. And I think like a couple of weeks after that, I had packed up my bags and my life and moved from Minnesota to Texas. So
Wow, that
yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, a question: how did you? I feel like this is where we all struggle the most when we are switching careers. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, we are finishing school, we are going to the real world, and no one is. Everybody's ghosting us, pretty much. Yes. So how do you stand up? And I think has to do quite a bit with your previous career and how you highlighted those skills and brought it in as now as a UX designer? Like,
Mhm.
how did you figure out that? Like, what did you write down in your resume, and kind of guide us a little bit about your process on that part, because I feel like it's so powerful to, I mean, you saying, okay, construction technology, you knew, again, is coming off from the beginning, is you knew that that's what you wanted to do. Ooh, a question before I forget is, was in your portfolio case studies or one of your projects in the construction sector?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, sorry. So yeah, because that's, I feel like that's having that mindset from the beginning. I said, okay, in my portfolio, this is what I have to do to show up at the end. I feel like that's so important if you know where you wanted to go. But yeah, so guide us a little bit of how did you highlight a bit of those skills, and how did you show them in your resume, and maybe when talking to uh, prospect companies. Mhm.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it all, I feel like I've said this a couple of times, but it all went back to my intent and my reasoning why. And that was to work with construction technology so that I can serve the field team. And I feel like one of the things that I had benefited from was just having that desire and that passion to solve that problem, and then being able to like translate that over to a company that was trying to solve the same problem, if that makes sense. Um, and I think my experience in construction itself, I think like that, I there there's like, because I feel like working in the project management department, I had understood like how general contractors work with architects, and then how architects work with field teams, and even like how you communicate with your field teams, and like all of the things that like go into making a building alive. Yeah, I guess. Yep. And because like I had that knowledge and that foundation, I also knew where some companies that I wanted to work for when I was job searching, I knew where they fit in the equation. Like for an example, like the company that I'm working with right now, we service electricians and electrical companies. And I know how those companies fit in the construction industry as a whole. And while I don't have experience working directly with a electrical company, I do know how I worked with electrical companies in the past. And I have like a sense of some of the like constraints and some of the issues that the construction industry as a whole, what they face, timing, labor, material shortage and all of that, and weather even. And how a lot of like the push and pull that happens with owners and even general contractors, right? And how that all trickles down to the users that I'm servicing, which are the electricians. So going back to your question, I feel like being able to like tap into previous experience that I had as a GC, but then also being able to like pull the passion and the intent and what's driving me really positioned myself well with my job search position, or job search experience. And when I got a chance to like reflect that information in my case studies and my cover letter and my resume, that like gave me enough or I guess enough like push to get like a leg in and have that conversation with the company. And when you are able to get like an interview and do some storytelling and share your excitement about like their problem and how you can help solve them, I think that's kind of like where the magic kind of happened for me, like getting to be excited about like what a company was doing and saying like, hey, I'm excited about that too. Like I have years and years of experience being excited about what you're trying to solve. Yeah. So
No, and I mean, and I feel like as you were telling me this story, it's like, oh my, I'm excited. and
I'm
I
probably
feel,
excited.
yeah, like, yeah, I want to work in construction too. I feel like that is such an important thing, that passion, and I mean, the knowledge, yes. And I feel like you just share not like so little about what did you do before, but I feel like for me that I don't know anything about construction and really getting to okay, maybe I should Google a little more about what construction companies do and but they have a new opening. That's so important because again, for many of us, we changed careers and industries and the sector because we were missing something. But again, it doesn't mean that you have to forget everything about who you were or what you did. um, and it really, like you said, reflecting, okay, what are really the things that I'm good at it, just write them down and be really clear about this and use them again when you're finding a job or when you're sitting down. And I feel like that's a great entry into the industry, is use your past industry and bring it in, and go and knock doors that you know what to talk about. I feel
Mhm.
like that's so powerful, and I feel we forget about that so much when we're switching careers, because it's like, oh, no one will really care about this, so people won't ask me about this. But if you go to the industry that you used to work and now you have a new set of knowledge and you have a new toolbox that you can use
Mhm.
up, is so powerful. um but I feel something that we all struggle to is we switch careers and now we're in this new job, yes, and we haven't done this before. Even though like we went to school and we have these projects, and again, we have in these kind of environments before, technology and all of this is new. And we all feel, I feel like this is like a common feeling that we all have switching careers in a new job, even like in a new company. It's like, ooh, is I'm enough? Is
Mhm.
this what I'm supposed to do? So how do someone come out of those feelings? Did you have that feeling? Maybe I should start saying that. Did you have that feeling, and how do you manage, and what did you do?
Yeah. Oh gosh. I feel like this is such a important question to ask, because I feel like most, if not all of us, whether it's UX designer or somebody transitioning careers, like I feel like we all go through it to some degree. Full disclosure, I when I had received my offer letter, I was I was skeptical on accepting it, because I was like, oh no, like are they like, oh, is this company, do they actually really want to hire me? Like, are you sure? And I think that is like a testament to like my reality and my experiences and like all of the work that I've done up to date. And like it's becoming real, right? And now I have to like face this reality of like actually getting a job offer, like the one thing that I was working towards. And when it finally came to me, I was like, uh, wait, is this real? Like, are you sure? Am I cut for this? But to answer your question, I think one of the things that I had done, and this is still very new to me too, um, but I think in my role as a UX designer for the very first time in my life, and being at this company for about 9 to 10 months now, I think one of the things that really helped me, and I'm very, very grateful to have this opportunity to do this, but by vocalizing my fears and my concerns and like how I felt about the work that I was doing and the impact that I was bringing, by having a dialogue with my teammates and my supervisor, my managers, and like the people around me, and being honest about it really helped, because like it's like a sense of like connection, right? Like I'm human and I have these fears, and I'm concerned, but like it also helped them get an idea of how they can like better support me and understand like what I needed. So that, and again, like I'm super fortunate, right, to get to work with a company that is so cool with like conversations like that, and are open to like having them. So that really helped me, because that kind of like solidified that, hey, I'm coming from a place of learning, right? And I'm learning, we're learning, let's learn together, and let's make mistakes, but also like celebrate the wins and whatnot. And the other thing that helped me was just making that commitment to being a life learner, and realizing that, like, you know what, even one day when I have 10 years of experience under my belt and maybe I'm a senior somewhere, I still hope to be in a position where I still don't know some things, right? And I still need to like figure out how I'm going to learn and understand something. So yeah, vocalizing what I'm feeling, how I'm like what I'm fearing and the things that I'm thinking about. And then also recognizing that, like, hey, you know what? This is like how the magic happens. This is life in a nutshell, right? Committing to knowing that you don't know everything and hoping that you don't know everything either, is kind of like the mantra that I've just accepted. Like, this is it. Like, this is fun. This is the good stuff. So yeah.
No, thank you for sharing. And I think, like you were mentioning, having a space in a company where you can vocalize that and your teammates are feeling like, yeah, okay, thank you. And let's see what we can do is so powerful. But that growth mindset is like, yeah, I mean, again, we just switched careers. This is new for us.
Mhm.
It's okay. Like, it's okay. We have questions, ask them. And I don't know if because yeah, it's scary. It's scary. Like asking questions. Would I sound dumb if I ask this? I'm the only one who is not understanding this? And I feel like all of those thoughts come to our mind, but it's for us to really, is like, do I really think about this about myself? Like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I feel for us to like really sit down with those thoughts. It's like, no, I don't think so. I think it's just so many things that we bring from the past and previous bosses and previous companies that just fill it up our brain, and it's at the end
Right.
of the day we are not that. So and then you go and talk to your peers, and it's like, no, okay, let's figure this out. It's like, no, maybe I had that question too, and you ask that question. Yes, it's like, I feel for us, when we are new, we are so empowered to ask questions that maybe people won't ask anymore because they've been there for a while. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you felt like that too. It's like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Does this make sense for you? And then people, oh no, this doesn't make sense either. but you're bringing it up. So I feel like it's just go for it, and find peers that are open to that space is so powerful. Um, Okay, so now that you're working and you have a little more comparison, like construction as a project engineer, and now UX designer, but in the construction kind of sector, what are the things that are like really similar, and what are the things that are really opposite? And how do you use, again, those skills to navigate your career as a UX designer?
Yeah. Well, this is a fun question. So, with my experience working with like a general contractor, I don't have too much experience on the stuff that architects and interior designers and the engineers and whatnot in that side of the world, and all the things that they do to design a space and a building. However, I do have like a sense of how to work with architects and how to like have dialogues with them about this is what they drew, and this was the design intent, and this is what was built. And I think that's been one of the most interesting and fun experiences, being able to translate that over to what I'm doing right now, because one of the things that we do is taking time to like do a quick design review when a build has been launched to test. And so my engineering team, like they take my designs and then they like build it, and then I get to look at the designs and compare it to like what we had and is it to spec. And that's been really interesting because I'm kind of like, oh, this must be like what an architect feels like when they're walking through a building and they could walk into a room and they pull up their plans and they're like, like this is wrong, this is right, and like how can we fix this, right? So that's been a super, super fun experience, I guess, like connection, because like sometimes you run into things that you had designed and you want it to look a certain way, but then there might be some things that you have to not compromise, but maybe like have a discussion about like, what can we do better here? What can we not do? What are like the tech constraints, right? So that's been super fun because like I have like designs, and then this is like what I wanted to happen, and then this is like what the engineers were able to do, and just coming to like that happy medium on like what can be possible and like what isn't possible. In most cases, it's always like possible, but just being cognizant that some things cannot be built the way that you want it to has been helpful. So that is like the first nugget, I guess, to how, bringing like past experiences is into like what I'm doing right now. I think another thing that has helped is just being able to, like pivot in terms of like having conversations with different people in the company, right? You're talking to your engineers, talking to the product team, then you're talking to like stakeholders and operations and even like sales and even your users, right? And in construction, as a GC, I had different problems I was trying to solve for different people. So like the field team, they had their own set of problems that I'm trying to help out on. The architects, the interior designers, and then even like managing stakeholder expectations, like keeping owners up to date. Like, hey, this is what your project, like this is what the building, where we are at with the building right now. Here are some constraints we're dealing with. We need stuff from you. Like just adapting to different teams and always like pivoting. I feel like those are some things that have translated over from construction to where I am at now. Stakeholder management, of course. Yeah, and then I think your second question was like some things that aren't similar, right? Oh, let's say some things that aren't similar. Well, I'm definitely not on a job site. I think the environment of working in tech is very different from what I'm used to working in construction, where it has more of like a rigid schedule, right? 6 to 3, in early, out early. We do work before the sun rises, right? It's going to get hot. We got to get in before the sun comes up. So I think just like the culture of switching industries has been really interesting. And one that I was like, oh, this is different. Like some people work from home. Some folks, like come at different times, leave at different times. Like we're not all like leaving and coming at the same time, which has been interesting. So yeah.
I feel like it's things that people don't talk that much in the industry, maybe because they've been there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, that was one of the biggest changers. like I work in retail for so long. So in retail, you're always moving, your schedule switch all the time. Do you always see people? Um, and I feel like for me, honestly, I'm still struggling with that change, even though I've been in design for like 2 years and a half.
Mm.
Like being on the up, like in sitting down and just connecting with people through the camera is been really tough. And trying to find other spaces where I kind of fill it up with the things that bring me a little more joy or movement. It's hard, yeah. So I think for you to realize, who, what is happening, yeah, why do I don't feel like as joyful now that I'm doing this job? And it's like you start thinking, oh, maybe I did like people. I mean, working in retail, you always like, I don't like people, but then I miss the interactions that you get with people. I miss the interactions that you get with your coworkers, because in retail, I mean, you're working with people all the time. So how do you bring that into your new job space is really important, but you have to figure it out. Yes, it's like what I'm missing and what can I bring in. I love that I can work in sweatpants every day. That's one of my favorite things. And yeah, I think it's super interesting, those switches. But thank you for sharing. Okay, so if you could give three tips to people that are switching careers and now they want to succeed in their careers and the journey as a UX designer, what are those three tips?
What are 3 tips? Okay. So I feel like the first one is something that we've been talking a little bit about, or not a little bit about, but most of the time here in this conversation, but being intentional and understanding your why, right? Like, why are you getting into UX? Why do you want to do this? I feel like not a lot of people, but some folks allude to, because it allows me to solve problems and it allows me to be creative. But I would argue that you can solve problems and be creative almost anywhere. So why UX specifically, right? Honing into like your why and being able to craft some sort of storytelling. In that same vein, being able to, and I feel like this is a hot take, but empathizing with recruiters and companies that are looking to fill a role, taking time to like understand some of the pain points that they run into when they are looking for a candidate, whether that is always seeing cookie cutter portfolios that look like boot camp portfolios, whatever you want to call it, understanding that they have their own things that they're dealing with, and you as a designer, how can you craft their experience in filling the role, by standing out in whichever way you'd like to. The second thing is just understanding how your previous experiences translate. This goes back to like understanding your why, but if you can tap into like the skills and the things that you did in your past life and how that could possibly serve you in your next life, then like that's awesome, because then you might bring a very different set of skills that another candidate might not have. And then my third tip is just understanding the problem that the company is trying to solve. Like, is this something that you can get behind? Is this something that you can be excited about? And like when you talk about it, like can I feel that excitement, right? So yeah, those are my 3 tips.
Where I am here. Yes, no, that's pretty nice. I feel like I love that part of really feeling like knowing what the HR and the company is going through. I think that's a good one. I mean, we are usually on the other side when we are looking for jobs and we are like, what, they're not coming back to me, like what they ghost me or whatever it is. But I feel like, okay, what kind of skills are they looking for? What are the tone that they're using? when writing a job post? What are they saying on the company? And I feel something that, again, we are not maybe talking too much about it, is how your values were lining up with the company
Mm.
when looking for a job. Um, and I think that has to do, it came up when you were talking about your feeling of not being enough, and for you to be able to speak up about your feelings and being vulnerable. I think that came out from the beginning when you were looking for a job, and when you were talking, I imagine, yeah, I mean, I make
Mhm.
that, but when you were maybe reading about the company, and when you sat down with them and you talked to the product owner, and I think we all get the feelings inside about, is this a red flag, is this a green flag, are we in the same space where my values going to the company are going to align. um, for me, that's one of the most powerful things when looking for a job, and really sitting down with the company and the people, and asking questions, and see, um, are we going to be a good pair?
Mhm.
Yes. So I feel like that's a good one. Digging in into your why, I feel like, woo. 'Cause, I mean, why do you want to switch careers? Yeah, I want to be creative. I want to solve problems. And I mean, I did that at my retail job every single day. Yes, it's like, oh, how do can engage more with our employees so they have a more fun time engaging with clients. And at the end of the day, that was kind of bringing creative spaces to them to enjoy, relax, whatever it is. So yes, I think like really finding that connection of why you didn't do the creative and problem solving in retail, and why you
Mhm.
wanted to do it now, is, and as a UX designer, is really important. Um, what is next for you? Like, what is coming? Like, what is happening?
What is next and what is happening? Yeah, I think this is what I'm going to say is pretty funny because because the conversation that we had earlier about education. But I am pursuing my Master of Science in User-Centered Design. I realized that, you know what, I like this. I like this, and I think I can commit another two or 1 years in school and getting my degree, my graduate degree, and just understanding that, like, going back to like the whole imposter syndrome and not feeling like you know enough, like this is an effort to continue to try to seek answers. So I'm going back to school, trying to challenge myself in a very academic space, which has been super fun so far. A lot of readings, but a lot of insights pulled from discussions and those readings. And yeah, that is like my big thing right now is going back to school.
I'm being a drummer. I feel like, as, oh, I'm going to start a band. But that's interesting too, because again, that was one of the first questions at the beginning when you decided to go into a boot camp, and non why to do the master at that point. Yes, I mean, it's like you investing money, you investing time, and you don't know if this is what you wanted to do. And I think now coming in, and it's like, okay, yeah. So that's, again, I feel like a lot of the things that we talked today about is intention. Yeah, like
Yeah,
really
yeah.
sitting down there and with yourself and analyzing, what do I like, how I can do this. Is the intention is so powerful. So yeah. And again, I had so much fun. This was great. Thank you. And again, for all of those who are watching us and listening to us, if you don't want to miss people like Melysia, please make sure that you subscribe, you follow. For those who is like, oh, I think my story is really interesting, I'm already opening for new speakers for season 2023. I cannot believe that I'm saying that. So yes, Thank you so much for spending your Saturday with me and sharing about your story. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Take care. Bye. Thank you, everybody.